Alright, so we just have a look at what we were doing last week as revision. We're on reports at the moment, and we talked about grouping reports last week. So this is, anybody tell me what view I'm in there?
Layout.
Layout view, yeah. How do you know I was in layout view?
Because the yellow box around.
Yeah, so when you selected a field, it surrounds it with the yellow box and a dotted line. We're looking at the group sort and total pane, which you get there by clicking the group and sort button. And if you click more, you get this extended display here, and that allows you to group a report. So when you sort a report, it will say without a header section and without a footer section. In other words, it doesn't divide the report into groups. If I were to group it by make, then it would only say forward once, and it would display all the related records beneath the word forward. It would say Honda once, and it would display all the related records below that, and so on. And the area where it displays the word forward is called the group header. If you then want to put in functions at the end of each group, you need a group footer. So you do need to know how to manipulate this group and sort pane in order to work with group reports. We looked at the example of a car database, and what's significant about the fields with the stars above there? Anybody remember?
Repetition.
And what's important about repetition, Mike?
Best choice for creating groups.
Yeah. You can only group a report really by the field with repetition in it, because it creates a single group for each repeated item. So, Dave, in the test type, if we grouped it by test type, how many groups would there be?
Sorry, I couldn't tell.
Paul, if we grouped the report by test type, how many groups would there be?
Yes, 3.
No. Anybody tell what?
2.
2, yeah. And why 2?
Fail or pass.
No.
That's what he does.
No. Have a look at the board. Come on, I know it's
very
Monday morning.
small.
Very small. Right. Full and retest. There's 2 values in there, right? So therefore we'll have 2 groups. If we looked at make, the groups that we would have are Ford, Honda, Toyota, Opel, and Nissan, I think. So for each repeated item, it just makes 1 group. That's what a group report does. So it doesn't make sense. Could you make a group report by test number? No. Why not? Correct.
Because it's primary key.
Primary key. Every value is unique, so you'd end up with a group for every single record, which doesn't make sense. So a group report, neither could you create a group report for registration number. Would it make sense to make a group report for time of test?
No.
No. Even though there might be repetitions in time of test, particularly as we, display enter data over consecutive days, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, what would it point in having a group showing all the cars that were tested at 10:30? Doesn't really make sense. So in general, if there are repeated items in a field, you can group by that report. If we look at the other fields, it wouldn't really make sense to have a group report by first name or surname. It's just not useful. Or by address 1 or address 2. You could have a group report by address 3, particularly if you had people from different counties, so you could analyse test results in Dublin and Wicklow and so on. So that's what group reports are all about. Let's just go on to the next page. So that's just that point there. If we do it by test type, there will be 2 groups, full and retest. If we do it on make fields, we have Ford, Honda, Nissan, Toyota, and Smart. And it wouldn't make sense to group a report by those fields, first name, surname, or address 1. This is the report wizard. So I think it's the 3rd step in the wizard. It says, do you want to add any grouping levels? And it's at that point that you highlight the field that you want to make a group out of, in this case make. And we click the single right pointing arrow, and it kind of puts make above all the other fields, and that's the group field. So in this case, it will print out the word forward once and then display all the related records below it. Within each group then you could sort, so if we sort by test result, the fail will be first and then pass, fail advisory will be second, then pass will be third. And you can do that ascending or descending within each group. And there you go, forward, fail, fail advisory, pass, and then the sort starts again. There's no other group actually where the three values are, but you can see there in this and fail and pass it is actually going ascending. So the grouped field, as you can see, only appears once. And Peter, what is the name of this section? Oh, I've written it on there. It's called the make header. I've written down all the different sections of the report. So when you group a report, you get an extra section. In this case, it's called a make header because I grouped it by the field called make. And then you can see there are numerous detailed sections, whereas in a standard report, there's only one detailed section. Michael, if I wanted to have functions at the end of each group, what section would I need to add?
The group footer.
Yeah, and in this case, what would it be called? What would the group footer specifically be called in this case?
The name of the make.
It would be called the make footer,
Make.
because I've grouped by make, so it's the make header, and if I add a group footer, it's called the make footer. The advantage of adding a group footer is that you can then have functions at the end of each group, like, count the number of Fords, count the number of Hondas, count the number of Nissans, and so on. That's the make header there, so that's where it appears in the design section. We mentioned last week just the distinctions between labels and text boxes, which is very important. These three boxes here, test result, date of test, and model, they're linking to specific fields in the table, so you can't change the text. As is this text here, make, it's in the make header. This box here in the make header, that's what's causing that text there, forward, Honda, Nissan, Opel. And then these three boxes, test result, data, test, model. That's creating that data there, test result, data, test, model. But these items here, make, test result, data, test, and model in white text, they are in the page header. They're just labels, so you can edit those, but you can't edit text boxes, because if you do, you lose connection with the table. And these are also text boxes. These are formulas. This one here, Dave, what does that do? Equals now.
I'll give you the space in between the two.
No. Anybody know what that does? Equals now. It gives you today's date. And what about this one? Equals page and page and of and pages. What does that do? Page number, yeah. So see if that is on the page. No, it's not. It will say page 1 of 1, or if there's 2 pages in the report, it'll say page 1 and 2, and so on. That's what that formula does. So these are also text boxes. You can't edit them. So this is what the group header, what the group sort of pane section looks like when you group the report. So I grouped it on make. By entire value, that means the full word. And then it says with a header section. This is the header section here, Ford, Honda, Nissan, Opel. When you group a report, it doesn't give you a footer section. See the way it says without a footer section. So if you want to put in functions at the end of each group, you have to change this without a footer section to with a footer section. And then that will give you another section in the report. Also, this value here is quite important. Do not keep grouped together on one page. Often when you group a report, the report gets longer because it needs more space, and often it will force it onto multiple pages. And sometimes a group will split across 2 pages, so it might start at the end of page 1 and continue on to the top of page 2, which is quite confusing. So to stop that from happening, you change this property here to, instead of do not keep grouped together on one page, to keep grouped together on one page. This is, we're talking about the tabular layout, and that's, what's that layout called? Anybody remember?
Stacked.
Stacked, yeah. Text boxes stacked on top of each other. So in a report, Access uses the tabular layout. Now we got onto that last week. So that's good. I did a lot of slides last week. Okay, so here we have, without footer section, we want to add functions to the group report. So we change it to with a footer section, and then that gives you this extra section here, which is, in this case, the make footer. And then, Brian, what function would have calculated this here? Number of vehicles, A.
Count.
Yeah, count. If their text fields are date and time fields, you can't use the sum function, so it's the count function. There it is there. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between these two functions here? There are two different places. This count function, the functions are exactly the same, but this one is in the make footer and this one is in the report footer.
One is counting the group and the other is counting all of them.
Yeah. So this function will count the number of records in each individual group. So we count the number of forwards, we count the number of pandas, and so on. So that's that function there, number of forwards, number of pandas, 8 and 2. But then if we put and this is why it's important to understand the different sections of the report. If we put exactly the same function into the report footer appears at the end of the report. That will count all the records in the report. So this function, when you put it in the make footer, the function appears on multiple occasions depending on the number of groups. So one count function, you can see here, produces multiple calculations, even though I've only written the count function once. But the same function in the report footer only does one calculation, one total for the entire report. So there's the count function in the report footer. It's giving a total of 24 records. Here's the count function in the make footer, which is counting for Toyota, but on previous pages it will have counted for other groups as well. And that, I think, is the end of groups. It's very comprehensive. Anybody got any questions about groups before we go on? This report comes up with the exam. You need to have grouping in your project as well. Just to check, I know some of you have done the exam.
When was that done? Because I can't remember any of it. When was that? Sorry, but when was that done?
Last week. Were you here last Monday?
No. Because I'm looking at it going, I can't remember that.
Yeah. I think the previous lecture as well, I started talking about groups. What chapter are you on in the book, or what question are you in the book there?
Oh, I'm still just past the rugby part.
Okay, so grouping doesn't show up until I think assignment 7, so it's a bit ahead of you here.
Yeah.
Can I just check who's going to be doing the exam in May? Oh,
Here.
Dave.
In Wednesday.
In May, will you do the exam?
Yeah.
Right. And
Okay.
Peter and O'Brien, have you done the previous exam yet? No. Okay. And Peter, are you
Done it,
done for it? All
Sorry,
right.
but would I be able to scratch to do the exam today?
This is the 12th of March, so the exams are on the week beginning 21st of May. So from the 12th of March to the 12th of April, that's 1 month. From the 12th of April to the 12th of May, that's 2 months and 1 week.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, but it depends on what else you're doing and how busy you are. But you would need to have finished all the assignments in the book by that date. Which, okay, it sounds like a long time away. It's about 9 weeks away.
It's not really.
No, so you would need to be, I think really to get it done and have good chances, you'd need to be completing one assignment every week and a half, and then to give yourself at least 2 weeks before the exam to work exclusively on exam preparation and sample exams. Can I just check what other people
I'll
got?
check.
Paul, what assignment are you on in the book?
I'm going to start in chapter 8.
Okay, right, so that's pretty good. Michael?
And I'm 8 as well.
8, right, and Brian?
Samples.
Sorry?
Sample exams.
Oh, you're on sample exams, okay, good. And, yeah, perfect. So yeah, Dave, just work away at it, try and maybe get one assignment done every week and a half, and then we'll see. Yeah. Okay, today I want to talk about the core functions, and then mail merge, and then we'll do some questions. Speaking of which, does anybody have any questions? No? Just do some general stuff about core functions first. reports that you can use for report functions to do calculations based on the records displayed in the reports. And the great thing about report functions is that they're dynamic. So if you have, say, the college database here, which is really important in the running of the college and allows the managers to keep an eye on how many students are in the college at any one time. There will be a count function in that report that says, the total number of students in the college currently 275 or something. Excuse me, every week there are students leaving the college and starting in the college, and when that data is updated, the functions update automatically. So you might look at that report this morning and it might say total number of students in college is 275, and then you might look at the same report in the afternoon and it might say total number of students in the college 274, because somebody has left and that's being recorded. And that actually is really important for the managers of the manage the college, because we get paid by FOSS per day by the number of students in the college. So one of the primary concerns of managers is to keep those numbers at the level, because if they fall below the required level, then we don't get paid as much, and then it's more difficult to run the college. And the second thing is that report functions, the data that report functions give you is only as accurate as the data entry. So say 3 people left the college today and somebody forgot to enter that data, and Deirdre is looking at the total and it says business studies is full, and she's thinking, oh, that's great, I don't have to do anything. And then a month later somebody says, oh, I forgot to input these things, it's actually 3 less students. That would be a bit of a disaster for us. So report functions are really important, and they're dynamic. Happy with it and it's formatted and all the rest of it, you don't have to go and adjust the report every time you type in new records. The report will reflect that automatically. So as long as you keep your data entry accurate and up to date, the report functions will give you an up to date answer. That's like critical for business type decisions, and here, for example, the constant work of making sure that the student numbers are up to date, and even though there's like a stream of people trying to get into the college these days, it's amazing the number of, once we say yes to something, lots of other things have to happen. You have to get this medical form filled out and all sorts of things, and sometimes the numbers might drop, even though you might have like 10 people waiting to get in, because all of those 10 people have to get these forms filled out and stuff. So it's a constant battle. So we know from our info comms module that computer systems produce information, and managers, not necessarily managers, everybody, I use information as well to make decisions. We rely on that information to support our decisions, and as long as information is accurate and up to date, then you have a good chance of making a good decision. But if you don't enter the data to the database, if the database is out of date, or if you enter the wrong data, or if you made a mistake, then the report function will give you an incorrect answer, in which case there's a chance of making a poor decision. So it's really, really important to keep databases accurate and up to date. And just Well, we talked about info and cons. What's the name of the process whereby you try to A, ensure that data entry is accurate, and B, reduce signal errors at the data input stage? What's that process?
Validation.
Validation, yeah. And what's the name of the thing that you can put into Access to try and cut down on errors at data input?
Validation rule.
Yeah, validation rule. And can anybody give an example of a validation rule? Or something that you could apply a validation rule to? Say when you guys are being registered in college, what would be the validation rule for age?
Not over 65.
Yeah, and what would be the minimum?
16.
16, yeah. So there's a validation for rule between 16 and 65. Say you pressed the key too many and you typed in 333 instead of 33. The validation rule would track that error. So data accuracy is really, really important, and it feeds into functions. Also, just generally in every business, you're going to have a database. I'd say it would be unusual to have a business without a database. Brian, do they use a database in that place for your work experience?
Yeah, they use a few of them.
Right. And what do they use a few of them? How come?
Yeah, they've one for stock.
Right.
They've one for PCs to take in with all the customers' detail on that capture form.
Right.
And then you've another our data capture form to fill out everything you did in a full back to intro, and then you just ready to go, what's ready to go.
And did you have to input the stuff into the database?
He showed me a few things how to do it, it was slow.
And is there? Do they keep the database up to date?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say that guy probably makes sure that it's up to date, because in an environment like that, the database, and correct me now if I'm wrong, the database will probably tell you these are the jobs that you need to do.
Yeah.
And as long as you've inputted the jobs, then that list is up to date. And then I take it that when you finish the job, you input something and then it doesn't appear in the list anymore.
Yeah, he puts back in to say that it's finished, and
Yeah.
there's also one there to say what all stuff is on order coming in from the
Okay.
companies. And
Yeah.
so what the customer is up there, and you just say, it's in there. You look at the report, it's
Yeah.
on order.
Yeah. So a kind of tech support database is a good example of functions. So if you have jobs that you need to fix stuff, your report function will say something like there are 12 jobs outstanding, and then if the new job comes in, you type that in, and then the report function says there's 13 jobs outstanding, and then you have to make sure that the technicians that are working on these jobs, when they're finished the jobs or when they're completed them, that they input that into the database. I'm now finished this job, so therefore the list will go down back to 12 and so on. But if people don't feed into that and keep stuff up to date, the report function will give you the wrong answer. So I mean, it's good to see that that's, to hear examples of that in real life, and that we use data capture forms and stuff. What's the data capture form like?
It's it has the customer's name, address, contact details, then it has hard rules and where we check the values, the hard
Right,
rules.
okay.
As on the checklist, then it says description of file,
Yeah.
what we did to fix it,
Yeah.
the price, what we fixed it,
Yeah.
and did the customer agree to pay the cost.
Right.
They have to be contacted before this job is done.
Yeah. So the idea with data capture form is to capture the data on paper before it's entered into the computer. Any questions? No? Actually, no. We were talking about functions in Excel over the last couple of weeks, and we saw that there are like hundreds of functions in Excel. There are less functions in Access. It's more because I suppose there's less calculation work that you can do in Access. We don't need to know all of the functions for FETAC level 5, so we just write out the ones that we need to know. Has everybody here done spreadsheets as well, or have some experience with spreadsheets? You haven't done any spreadsheets yet, have you?
No.
Alright, so some of those are teaching the interview then, are they? Those functions. So the names of the functions are common across Access and Excel, with one exception. AVG, and
The average, you have the spreadsheets.
Yes. That causes confusion for people. So just for spreadsheet users, put down here. Calculating the average in Excel, it's as Paul said, AVE or AGE. If you're calculating the average in Access, it's AVG. I don't know why they did that in here. It's just,
Should have done
Don't.
both, to be honest.
lots of people get caught out by that. Lots of people, it's an easy mistake to make. I've made it myself before where you're writing an average function and you just put in equals average. It doesn't work. It's AVG. So for those of you who haven't done functions before, sum, I'll just put in a few things here. Adds values in a field. Average, calculates the average. Count is a really important function in database. It's probably one of the most widely used functions in database because you want to see like how many are there. So we saw in that example there where a group report, we saw that there was like 8 Toyotas and 4 whatevers. In the same way you want to see in like Brian's example of the tech support database, you want to see how many jobs we have to do. There are 20 jobs outstanding. Then you have another job, there's 21 jobs outstanding. That's the count function. In the example of the college, there are 275 students currently in the college, and then at the end of the day there's a different number, and that's really important for the managers to keep track of. The count function is probably the most widely used function in database. Counts the number of records in a report. Max and min find either the highest or the lowest number, lowest value in a particular field. These two here, sum and average. Or something. So you type the word 20 and the letter, the number 20 and the word degrees in a field, and then you try to add it up later on in a function. And of course you can't do that because as soon as you type in text, you feel it's a text field. So the correct way to do that would be to set up a number field and just put in the number 20, and then you can use the sum function later on. So it's important just to, it sounds obvious, but sum and average only work with number fields. You can't add up words. Any questions about that?
Can you use count in a group section?
Yeah, you can use any of those functions in the group section.
Okay.
Well, why do you ask?
No, just we have it written down that it can be used in a report. Just can't around with in a report.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, when I say just in a report, it's like
As an example.
you can use it in a report. So you can use it in a report in the. There's 3 places. Well, actually, there's 4 places you can use functions. You can use the most common place to use a function is in the report footer, in which case the functions will base their calculations on every single record in the report. As we've seen, you can use report functions in the group footer, and the functions will do calculations based on the group. But you can also have functions in the detail section. It's less common. But if you put a function in the detail section, the calculation will appear for each record in the report. And you can also have functions in the report header. So if you wanted to have some like total or average just at the very top of the report, you could also do that. The only place actually that you can't have report functions is the page footer. You can put them everywhere else. So I might just do a slide on that. So I'll just put this in order of how common or where you're most likely to see them. The first place is in the report footer. Change that. So as we saw earlier on, if you put a function in the report footer, the calculation is just done once. You see one calculation, and that calculation will be based on all of the records in the report. So for example, if you put the count function in the report footer, it will give you one number, and then that number will be a count of every single record in the report. That's probably the most common place to put functions in the report footer. And the report footer is at the end of the report, so that calculation will appear after the last record. Second, probably most common place that you can have a report is a group footer. As we saw earlier on, the functions themselves are no different. They're done exactly the same, it's just they're put in a different place. Because they're put in a different place, it has a different effect. I'll put this in a different colour so we can see it. Two key differences between a group calculation and a report calculation. When you put a calculation in the report footer, the first thing is calculation is based on all of the records in the report. When you put a calculation in the group footer, calculation is based on the records in each group. So all things being equal, the account in the group footer will give you a smaller number than a count in the report footer. Second major difference between these two types of calculations is that calculation in the report footer appears once only at the end of the report, whereas the calculation in the group footer will appear on multiple occasions depending on how many groups there are. So that's really important to understand that distinction. Anybody got any questions about that?
No.
Do you guys need more time to take that down?
Yeah, just a second. Yeah.
Okay. Just for the lecture that you missed last week, Dave, you can get that off Bits of Learning.
Yeah. Cheers.
Now I said that you can put calculations in other places as well, but don't want to mention that now, so don't confuse the issue. I just want to put this down here. report footer are very close together. So it's easy to make a mistake in putting functions in the page footer, and I've done it myself. I haven't done it for a while now, but nearly everybody I've ever seen learning database has made that mistake at some point or other. And even though you write the function correctly, it'll give you an error, so just be careful about that. So let's have a look at it in practice. One other thing. Oops. Not that yet. Actually, a few other things. Text box button that you need to create a function. You get that in report design. You also get it in layout view. You can create functions in either layout or design view. But personally, I prefer creating them in design view. It's kind of up to you really, which suits you better. But I find that layout view is really good for formatting, and I find that doing more technical things like functions that design view is much better. Just personal preference. The text box button is it's got A, B, and this kind of line on it, and in Access 2007-2010 it actually says text box on the button now, whereas in previous versions it didn't, which is a bit confusing because it's very similar to the label button, which just says AA, and people get confused between those two things. Draw a box, and confusingly this will give you two boxes. So I get this right, I just need to remember myself. I'll go back to this slide now in a second what that actually does. Just bear with me for a second. There's the text box button now. It's less confusing now because in previous versions of Excel it just said AB on it. Now it actually says text box underneath it, which is a bit of a help. And you can see they still persist in putting it next to the label button. And it's a regular thing that people get confused between the two buttons. I just want to change something here. Okay. It's a bit confusing actually. When you draw a text box, you get two things. You get a label and a text box. This bit here is a label, and this bit here is a text box. So you write the function here. And then in the label, you put in descriptive text. Anybody know why it says unbound?
There's nothing in it.
It's not, there's nothing in it. Well, there is nothing in it.
No data binding. There's no data binding attached to it.
Yeah, specifically what it means is that that text box is not linked to any specific field in the table. Whereas earlier on we were looking at text boxes linked to, say, the what was it? The make field. The make text box in the group header was, you had make written in the text box. That meant that text box was bound to the make field. But this text box is not linked to any field. Confusing enough, I think, the first time you work with functions, knowing about the AB button And then understanding that when you draw a text box, there are two things. You get a label and a text box. Remember that the function itself goes into where it says unbound, and then to type in some descriptive text. I put in here text 27. The numbers will be different depending on how many boxes are in the report. So if you had a report and there were 6 fields in it, and a heading in the title, so if there's 6 fields, then you'll have 6 text boxes, and then there will probably be 2 text boxes in the page footer, one for the date and one for the page number. So more than likely say text 8 in that case. It just gives you the next number. So we just look at the structure of a function and then we'll take a short break. So all functions, just like anybody who's done Excel will know this, all functions start with equals. And then you've got the name of it. I think I'd be able to draw an equal sign at this stage of my life. Then you've got the name of the function. Do that in a different color. Curly brackets. Inside the curly brackets, square brackets. And then the field name. And all functions are the same. In terms of that structure, there's no exceptions to that rule.
Well, the OS is where you have the square brackets, and
Yeah.
the red sign is where you have the quote brackets.
Curved brackets are also on the outside and the square brackets are also on the inside. If a mistake that people sometimes make is they mix up the brackets, so they might have this square bracket outside the curved bracket, and then it doesn't work. Be careful about that. Probably the biggest mistake that people make when they're writing functions is that they don't spell the field name correctly. So unless the field name that you refer to outside the function exactly matches the way that you set it up in the table, it won't work. That's probably the most important thing.
Hey, do they have a field name or do you have to type it?
You can't, I don't know, did you ask me that before? There's no way in Access to like drag and drop a function name into a field name into a function. I don't know why they haven't added that feature to the database. So you would think when you're writing a function that you just select from a list of fields, but it doesn't let you do that. You have to type it in. So I would advise you to, when you're writing a function, always have the field list visible, so I can show you the up-to-date spelling and the correct spelling of the field. Did I capture this? Yes, it is. Anybody, any other questions before we take a quick break, Michael?
Yeah. Can you explain what would happen if you put a report function into the details section or the report header?
Okay. Can I do that after the break?
Yeah, of course.
The lengthy enough answer
Okay.
to that. Yeah. We'll just take a quick break there for